My buddy Moosey is going to love the start to this show today, isn't he? Mike the Moose Reeves, who drives the bus for the Kitchener Rangers, a person I'll be spending some time with this weekend as we've got a roadie headed stateside. Moosey loves his Beatles. I love my Rush. I've never been a huge Beatles guy, I'm sorry to say. But respect. And when it comes to the White Album, mucho respect from yours truly. One of the greatest albums of all time. And it was on this day in 1968 that the White Album was released in the UK. It spent 8 weeks at number one, and it featured, among other songs, the one you just heard, Obla Di, Obla Da, whatever the hell that means. It is Friday, the 22nd of November. Good Friday morning. Thank you very much for stopping by, spending some of your time with us. We have got so much to do on the show today, including giving away a couple of pairs of Kitchener Rangers tickets. Our good friend Gord Harris, who is the sponsor of our pregame show, it is the Harris Law pregame show, has said, I can't use my seats tonight. Why don't you give them away to somebody on the show? I said, Gord, I like the way you think. So we'll do that at some point today. As I figure out my stuff, as I amalgamate my feces here on the show, I'll come up with a better idea of the time and I'll let you know. But sometime before 1, I promise you that, we're going to give away those Kitchener Rangers tickets today. I have a number of questions to start the show. I'm sorry to start with questions. I usually ask the questions of our guests so that they can explain things to us and help us understand more. I'm still trying to understand this bribe that we were told about yesterday from the federal government. So many things about this. One question I have is, how was the idea conceived? Like, I would love to be the person or one of the people in the room when the idea is conceived. Okay, Federal Liberal Caucus, this is what we're going to do. What we're going to do is we're going to remove the GST on a whole bunch of items starting on December the 14th, including Christmas trees, because, you know, we all wait till December 14th to buy our Christmas tree, right? But we're going to do that. We're going to take the GST away for a couple of months, give people a GST holiday, because that's swell. And on top of it, we're going to hand out $250 bribe, rebate, whatever you want to call them, checks. That's what we're going to do. And it's only going to cost us, because this is the way I'm positive federal Liberals think. It's only going to cost us $6.3 billion. And of course, it's not costing the federal Liberals anything. It's not costing you and me anything. It's costing our great-grandchildren a whole hell of a lot because our deficit is almost $50 billion. Like, come on. I don't understand. I really don't understand. But it goes much deeper than that, my lack of understanding with this. Is this a political ploy? After all, Doug Ford just did the same thing in Ontario. So if you're patting Dougie, your good pal Doug Ford, Premier Ford, on the back, well, then you have to pat your good friend Justin Trudeau on the back too, don't you? If you like Doug's 200, well, Justin Trudeau said, hey, Doug, hold my beer. I got 250 for hardworking Canadians, right? So you can't dislike one and like the other. No, that's not allowed. If you like it, you like it. If you don't like it, you don't like it. For the record, I don't like it in either case. The other thing about the federal Liberal plan that I'm curious about, I wonder, is this an unintentional acknowledgement of how damned expensive it's gotten to live? How much less purchasing power that we have? Because the difference between the Ontario plan and the federal plan is, in Ontario, everybody gets it, period, full stop. Federally, it's income tested, sort of, to $150,000. Or if you live in a 2-income household, $300,000. But that's net. If you took home $150K, you get the $250, which means you're probably earning in the neighborhood of $250,000 a year, $250,000. And yet, the federal government is implying that even if you have that kind of earning power, $250 is going to make you pretty happy. What does that tell you about how far your earned dollars go or don't go anymore? I don't know. I don't think that was the intention. But when I started crunching the numbers, which is something I like to do. And finally, everything old is new again. You may recall, and if you've forgotten, I'm here to remind you, because it was one of the greatest lines/gaffes in federal political history. The 2005 federal election campaign, Conservative leader Stephen Harper says, you know what we're going to do? Our Conservative government is going to give $100 a month to Canadian families for childcare. And we're just giving it to them for them to spend and help with their childcare needs. And a Liberal strategist was quick to point out, no, that's not what you should do. If you put the money into the hands of Canadians to just do with whatever they want, what do you think they're going to do with it?
Stephen Harper's plan on childcare has nothing to do with childcare. Don't give people $25 a day to blow on beer and popcorn. Give them childcare spaces that work.
Oh, the beer and popcorn line. Do you remember that? That Liberal strategist quickly apologized later the same day, but the beer and popcorn line was out there, and you'll never guess what. Back in 2005, the beer and popcorn line comes out. Don't give Canadians money that they're just going to blow on beer and popcorn. The HST holiday that the Liberals have just given us applies to both beer and popcorn. You can't make this stuff up.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
All right, I'll give you 5, okay? Your Farwell Show 5 for this Friday morning. Number 1, maybe it's not those bad Kitchener drivers after all. A man from Toronto has been charged in a collision with an Ion light rail train, shutting the system down yesterday for 8 hours. So if it's not Kitchener drivers, it's just drivers in Kitchener. Number 2, another crash last night on Trussler Road at Highway 78, making it the second in as many weeks. The region has just launched a public feedback portal as it looks to make upgrades to Trussler from Bleems to Yellow Birch. Number 3 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, several Ontario communities are suffering from sticker shock after receiving the bills for policing by the province. One community served by the OPP says the price tag this year is more than double what it was a year ago. Ontario's Ministry of the Solicitor General says they're working with municipalities to make sure they're not negatively impacted by the change. Number 4, the federal government's school food program is coming to Ontario. Ours, now the third province to sign on to the deal, which will see more than $100 million added to Ontario's existing student nutrition program over the next 3 years. The expansion will provide food for an additional 160,000 students per day. And number 5 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, Kitchener's iconic restaurant and live music venue, The Boathouse, officially reopens today with a grand opening ceremony at 11 a.m. The beloved destination has been a feature of Victoria Park for decades and has been completely renovated by Walkinshaw Holdings, a group of local entrepreneurs who leased the City of Kitchener-owned building back in 2022. And that is your Farwell Show 5 for a Friday morning. Quick break. When we're back, the Golden Hawks headed to the Vanier Cup. We'll have a chat with the U Sports Football Coach of the Year coming up. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio. Do not tell my beloved, but I am so in love with Friday, especially this time of year when Fridays mean game days. We'll give away some Rangers tickets later on in the show. Friday, I'm in love. The Cure by request for Andrew on the show this morning. Every Friday is an all request Friday. And this Friday marks not just a game day for the Rangers, but a travel day for the Wilfrid Laurier University Golden Hawks, who are headed to Kingston to take on Laval in the Vanier Cup. Michael Faulds is the head coach of the Wilfrid Laurier University Golden Hawks, and he has also just been minted the U Sports Football Coach of the Year. Michael, when you look back over these 2 playoff games to date, Yates Cup, UTEC Bowl, was coming out of the half versus Western in that Yates Cup the greatest adversity your team faced in these playoffs?
Yeah, no, heading into halftime of the Yates, I would say a little bit of adversity. Obviously, we were up by a score, but we were up 3 scores a little bit before in the second quarter. So I was proud of our guys how then early in that third quarter they responded and built that lead back up. And then, as you mentioned, the challenge with the travel and everything, going out to Bishops, going out to an unfamiliar team, super proud of how we played in that first half. So we have had bouts of adversity throughout the year. In fact, I believe it's 5 of the games we've trailed at one point. But on our sideline, our demeanor, you never see a sense of panic. We know we have the ability at any point to score in bunches. So our guys do a great job of staying even keel, knowing that over time, a battle of attrition, we have the ability to come out on top.
I know when we last talked, we talked about Taylor Elgersma, and I don't want to make it all about one guy, but it's hard to ignore a player of his caliber, and especially the stat line from the UTEC Bowl. 30 of 34 with 5 touchdowns, and he might have been 31 of 34 had one not hit the upright, one of his passes. Like, incredible performance.
Yeah, no, he's really special, and, liken it to a goalie in hockey or a hot pitcher in baseball. That quarterback position in football, especially in Canadian football, with it just being 3 downs, is so crucial. So we're a good football team and we're a good roster, but Taylor makes us an elite football team. And, what's great about him is obviously being 6'6" and can make every single throw on the field, but it's his leadership qualities and his work ethic really increases the work ethic and leadership of everyone around him.
Were you playing a little rope-a-dope with Ryan Hughes all season long? 3 catches through the season, 3 touchdowns last week. He's got 18 catches in the postseason. Is this your secret weapon?
Yeah, like Ryan Hughes, I'm so proud of him. And it's kind of that next man up philosophy, but he's such a great kid. He's performed exceptionally well in a backup role and in practice throughout the year and never complains about playing time or anything. And just always had that mindset of, I'm just going to wait for my opportunity. Well, his opportunity came in the Yates Cup. It came again in the UTEC Bowl. It's going to come again this Saturday in the Vanier Cup, and he's making the most of it. And, there's something to say about quarterback to receiver timing and relationship, and you can just see the confidence that Taylor now has just a couple games in with Ryan, and that chemistry that they have together.
You said the magic words just a moment ago, and really that's what this conversation is all about, the chance to play for the national championship on Saturday in the Vanier Cup. What do you do to prepare for a team like Laval?
Yeah, well, the biggest thing, and when we've played our best this year, you look at the 2 Western games, you look at the first time we played Queens, when we respect our opponent, we have a different body of work, a different process, a different mindset, and we play our best football. And no program in the country do we respect more than the Laval Rouge or Glenn Constantine and what they do. So, we told the guys early in the week, who has the most Yates Cup championships ever? It's the Western Mustangs. The Yates Cup had to go through them. Who has the most Vanier Cups ever? Well, it's the Laval Rouge or, and our Vanier Cup journey has to go through them. So it's very fitting. Obviously, we know we have to play mistake-free football. We've got to be explosive on offense. We've got to get timely stops on defense, and we've got to, have great special teams, including maybe a couple big returns by Tayshaun Jackson. But it's not like we're playing an opponent and we're putting them on a pedestal and our ego is shattered. We're a confident group. We're going to go into the game confident, and we're going to play loose.
We talked to Taylor Elgersma last week, Michael, and he alluded to us that after losing the Yates last year to Western, the team kind of came into this season on a mission. And among those missions was, let's have an undefeated season. That was kind of the stretch goal, and then move on from there. How have you managed the team this year when it comes to having a focus like that, but still remaining focused week to week?
Yeah, so our goal each and every week is to go 1-0 that week and to not look too far ahead. But I think everyone realized that for us to go as far as we currently are, it might take an undefeated season. And why I say that is we were given the second week bye, which is very early in the season and almost pointless. Whereas if we were to go 8-0 and get the number 1 seed in the OUA, then we would get the quarterfinal OUA bye, which would set us up, health-wise and, development-wise for a long playoff run. And that's exactly what we did. So we didn't look too far ahead. We truly did take it one game at a time. And I'm proud of the group. It's one thing to have a team of great players on paper. It's another thing to go out and do it. And Taylor's right. That sting of losing the Yates Cup last year, what I remember about that is not that game itself. I remember the Sunday morning seeing an image of Taylor Elgersma already in the gym again. And that kind of set the tone for this 2024 season when your best player loses a meaningful Yates Cup game in 2023 and the very next day he's in the gym. That set the tone for this run.
Playing in Kingston is almost equidistant, with Laval fans maybe coming west a little bit and you guys headed east. You know the purple and gold will be traveling to support you. How do you feel about Kingston as a site?
Yeah, it's going to be a great site. Obviously, Richardson Stadium is one of the nicest stadiums in the country, beautiful horseshoe shape. And as you mentioned, both fan bases are going to travel there, so it should be an exciting atmosphere. Our guys are excited. They do a good job in terms of U Sports, making the guys feel like it's a really big game. It's almost like Grey Cup week or Super Bowl week. It's not just the game on Saturday, but there's a lot of festivities leading up to that game.
We're really looking forward to it. The whole region is behind you, Michael. Best of luck. Come home with that first Vanier Cup since 2005, and thanks very much for making time for the show.
All right. Really appreciate it, Mike. Thanks for having me on. Michael
Faulds, head coach of the Wilfrid Laurier University Golden Hawks, who are playing in the Vanier Cup tomorrow versus Laval. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio. The Prime Minister came out with a video posted online to start our week talking about people who have gamed the system, exploited newcomers to our country. How do we reduce immigration targets without scapegoating the newcomers who are already here? We'll talk about that coming up. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio.
This is where today's topics turn into today's talking points. It's local and it's Democratic radio at its finest. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio.
And then there are really bad actors who outright exploit people, who target vulnerable immigrants with promises of jobs, diplomas, and easy pathways to citizenship, promises that would never come true. Looking back, when the post-pandemic boom cooled and businesses no longer needed the additional labor help, as a federal team, we could have acted quicker and turned off the taps faster.
The Mike Farwell Show continues
on 570 News Radio.
That's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau in a video he posted online, a video that he posted Sunday and started our news cycle Monday morning. A bit of a mea culpa from the Prime Minister regarding Canada's immigration targets, the number of newcomers welcomed into the country to fill those post-pandemic workforce needs, and then the exploitation that the Prime Minister says occurred, and the too slow a pace with which the federal government turned off the taps. Elizabeth Long is an immigration lawyer with Long Mangalgi LLP and joins us for a conversation. Elizabeth, good morning.
Good morning.
Is this a necessary policy shift by the federal government?
The policy shift by the government, I think right now, has served to further traumatize workers and international students that they have had attracted to come into Canada.
So when you talk about them being further traumatized, would that be in part because of the exploitation that Prime Minister Trudeau pointed out?
There's always been exploitation in the immigration system. It's inevitable with regard to the way that the system has been structured. But the traumatization that I would like to speak about with regard to the government's further policies is the fact that after they have invited the experts are saying almost 2.3 million people to come to Canada to work, after they've told them through, promises of the fact that they would be able to get permanent residence if they stayed in Canada and worked, then right now they've turned off the taps. And so we have people who are here in Canada who have lived here for years, who have worked, and it's not that the employers have turned off the taps and said, no, we don't no longer want you to work here. We have many people who have jobs, and the employers are desperate to have them stay in Canada. But because the federal government themselves have stopped allowing people to get permanent residency. By stopping, I mean they haven't turned off the taps completely, but it's a trickle. For 2.3 million people who are in Canada working, they have only around a tenth of those spots for permanent residence. So 9 out of 10 people aren't going to be able to get permanent residence.
And then what status does that leave them in? Facing deportation or going back to their home country?
Well, it's very precarious because alongside of the very, very limited permanent residence spots, and when I say, there's around 200,000 spots right now for this year, but the government has said that they are further reducing the number of permanent residence spots in the future years. Now, alongside of that, the government has significantly reduced the ability for people to extend their work permits. And this is for people who already have job offers in Canada. They have significantly reduced the policies, and they've changed the policies so that even if people have jobs in Canada, they wouldn't be able to extend their work permits. So this puts people in a very vulnerable, precarious situation where, for many people, they are likely going to either face being in Canada on an illegal basis or having to leave Canada.
What can we do to fix this situation or make it less precarious?
The main thing that we have to look at is how to allow people to stay in Canada. If they're already working in Canada, if they are already shown that they are a contributing member of our society, why would we want them to have to leave Canada? That is the main question that I don't think the federal government and Mr. Trudeau has answered right now. Why is it that we are making it so difficult for workers and international students to be able to stay in Canada when they have already proven themselves that they are taxpayers, that they are contributing members of our society?
We heard a report just yesterday, Elizabeth, that 1 in 5 newcomers is leaving Canada within 25 years, 1 in 3 within 5 years. Given the work that you do, I'm sure you support all manner of people as they make entry to Canada. But is our country becoming less desirable for newcomers?
Canada for years has been one of the top countries where people have wanted to immigrate to. And that is because the system that we had was something where it was quite a reasonable path where if someone was in Canada and they worked first in Canada, that they would be able to stay in Canada. And we've been attracting some of the best and brightest in the world. Our population in our country, along with many, many other developed countries, is decreasing. And the federal government for a very long time has stated, according to the Stats Can reports, that we really need to bring in young, educated people to come to Canada to fill our workforce, pay the tax dollars, and so that we can afford to have the standard of living and the healthcare system that we have. Now, all of a sudden, the government has seemed to reverse its long-stated policy. And as a result, it looks really bad for us on the international stage. Now, the it seems to be that this attitude by the government in kind of discarding people like, well, oh, we don't need you anymore because our unemployment rates have gone up a little bit, even though, they've come to Canada, spent their life savings, spent their family's life savings to try to afford the international student fees and have worked in Canada for years. Now, oh, you know what? Yeah, we don't really need you now. Go away. That kind of attitude makes us look really bad on the international stage.
Elizabeth, I really appreciate your perspective on the show today. Thank you very much for being here.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Elizabeth Long is an immigration lawyer with Long Mangalgi LLP, and she says this reflects very poorly on Canada on the world stage. I do worry. Look, there's no question, and the federal government has acknowledged it. The response to the changing dynamic did not come quickly enough. It's as simple as that. But what ends up happening, and what concerns me, quite frankly, is how those who have already come here in good faith, under the existing system, following the rules, now end up being scapegoated in this process. Oh, it's all their fault, when in fact, of course it's not. It's the fault of the federal government that didn't turn the taps off quickly enough. It's the fault of the bad actors that took advantage of this to make some money. We could go on and on. But now what we end up with is a very precarious situation for newcomers to this country, not to mention the damage done to our international reputation. We will need immigration to fuel our economic future. Finding that right balance, I think, is something this current federal government is still trying to do. Your thoughts always welcome. We'll take a quick break, come back with phone calls on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio.
The main thing that we have to look at is how to allow people to stay in Canada. If they're already working in Canada, if they are already shown that they are a contributing member of our society, why would we want them to have to leave Canada?
Elizabeth Long is an immigration lawyer with Long Mangalgi LLP. Joins us to talk about the taps being turned off, or at least slowed to a trickle. You remember the almost 7-minute video Prime Minister Trudeau posted online Sunday, then took off to the G20 in Brazil. Clever the way that worked out, isn't it? But it really began our news cycle this week, and it's raised all kinds of questions and some interesting conversations, not the least of which is the conversation we just had. There is a real danger, and this has been happening for a while. I think we understand that. The danger is that those who are new to our communities, to our country, end up being scapegoated because the perception is that they individually themselves are the problem. And of course, that's not the case. Various policy decisions have created the problem that we're in. Now we're trying to fix it. But while we do that, as Elizabeth Long points out, we leave so many people in such a precarious situation. Your thoughts always welcome on the show. 519-570-2545, star 570, 1-800-570-5715. Kevin, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. Well, here where everything went wrong from the beginning. I remember, I'll just make an example for you. When I was a kid, when my mom had guests, like we had 10 or 15 people, she would prepare food, make sure there is enough seat for everybody. And if somebody else said that we are coming, she would have sent my dad, to buy extra meat, extra food, and everything. The problem is, from the beginning, Canada was not prepared, did not prepare itself to accept that many international students. It's like you're inviting 30 or 40 guests in a one-bedroom apartment with only about 2 pounds of meat in the fridge. And then when they come in, after you invite them, then you're going to say, oh, everybody get the hell out. I don't have food for you. So the problem was infrastructure was not there from the beginning. Doesn't matter, provincial or federal. The college system were not ready. So when they accept that many students, when they come here, they say how easy it is to manipulate the tests and, go this, do that. So there were not enough infrastructure in the beginning. So obviously, when those international students, they come here, and they somehow, if there is anything available that they can, get ahead or, pass their test, they do that, right? And there was not enough hope for them. There was not enough job for them. I have a business that on a daily basis, I'm receiving about 30 to 45 inquiries of international students coming to my store and asking if I'm hiring. And I'm just about to put a banner that I'm not hiring. Don't even bother coming because I already hired enough international students in my business. But I feel bad to reject them. And when they leave the store, they feel so rejected. And I'm thinking, why would you even bring that many? Why? And now Justin Trudeau is saying, everybody get out. Everybody, I don't have food. I don't have chair. I don't have anything. So this is a best example of a poor government. Other countries in the world, they are doing a lot better. So I think it all go back to Justin Trudeau and his government.
All right, Kevin, appreciate the call. Well argued for sure. George, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Mike. It really bothers me when I hear about people using racial slurs and being angry. And you hear on your radio about racial attacks on people of color. It's not their fault. If you and I had a chance to get out of a poor country and we could go to Canada, Mike, you and I would be leaving right away.
Darn right.
It's the mismanagement of the whole situation, how it's done. I don't blame the people who are here. I love them up when I see them at the drive-thru, wherever I see them. I make them feel as welcome as I can. It's not their fault. That's all I wanted to say, Mike.
Thanks, George. Appreciate that. It doesn't inspire faith in our leaders, does it? So, course correction, great. Policy reversal, great. But many of us, I feel, were saying it before the taps were finally slowed to a trickle. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio.
Did I do to deserve such a fate? I didn't really want to get involved in this thing.
I'll tell you what we did to deserve such a fate. We knew Mark. He's a good friend of the program. And it seems almost inevitable, but I love the consistency. There are certain things in this life that you can count on. Higher taxes, more bike lanes, and requests on All Request Friday from Mark for Alice Cooper. And indeed, that's what we hear this morning. That's Killer by Alice Cooper. Every week, Mark seems to find another Alice Cooper song that he would like to hear a bit of. We are always happy to play a bit of your song on All Request Fridays. When you call into the show during the week, you can just let the guy on the other side of the glass, it's one of the Robertsons, Devin usually call in sometimes, just let them know what song you'd like to hear. Or send me an email anytime, mike@570news.com, and we will play as many of your requests as we can during our show on Friday. Something that's been making a lot of waves, there were two pretty serious crashes yesterday in the region. One, of course, was that crash in downtown Kitchener involving a vehicle and an ion train. These crashes continue to fascinate me because, as you know, the trains are on a fixed track. They do not make unpredictable maneuvers. They just don't. So if there is a collision involving a train and a vehicle, you can bet your bottom dollar that the operator of that vehicle did something wrong. And listen, I've said this before, I'm finding it increasingly difficult to navigate Kitchener's core. It's a pretty uncomfortable place for me. I'm getting older. I take great care. There's a lot going on. So you have to really be on your best driving behavior. And clearly not enough of us are. So there was that collision yesterday in downtown Kitchener. And then last evening, another and I do emphasize another, second in as many weeks on Trustler Road at the Expressway, an intersection that we have been told is a, quote, priority both regionally and provincially. And I'm not sure what we're waiting for. We are in the midst of a public engagement survey to figure out what we want for Trustler Road from Bleems all the way to Yellow Birch. Presumably that could include traffic control at Trustler and the Expressway, which is already overdue. By the time we finish the public engagement, get about the planning and all of the other things that go into the work, how many years down the road are we? For the love of all things holy and safe, how about just a temporary traffic signal? Could we get a temporary traffic signal? Because somebody going to get a hurt real bad, to quote Russell Peters, if we don't do something sooner rather than later. I've got to get you to the 570 News Center for an update. And then a regional councillor writes an op-ed asking that we consider the rights of vulnerable neighborhoods. What does he mean? We'll talk about it coming up. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio. A little bit of CanCon on your all-request Friday. Tom Cochran and Red Rider with Lunatic Fringe. It is just after 10 on your Friday morning. Every Friday morning at this time, little segment we call Council Chambers, which allows us the opportunity to speak with one of our elected representatives in the region, find out more about what's going on in their part of our municipal government. Today, we're joined by Regional Councillor for Cambridge, Doug Craig. Mr. Craig, good morning.
Oh, good morning, Mike.
You have penned recently an op-ed about, dare I say, the issue of the day, and that is encampments, how we deal with them in our communities, and whether or not the notwithstanding clause is necessary or should be invoked. You say no to the notwithstanding clause. Why?
Well, I think it's overreach and overkill. I don't think the notwithstanding clause was ever designed to be used in a situation like this. I mean, I think we have to look at what the real issue here is. And it is, you got 15 mayors have come together. They bypassed the big mayors organization. They bypassed AMO and have come together for a cry for help. And they've used the notwithstanding clause to get everyone's attention. Because what's happening in our communities is that vulnerable individuals that we need to help are not getting the help they need. They're ending up in encampments. And communities are also suffering from the point of view of the behavior of a number of people within these encampments in terms of different things that are negatively affecting everybody. So I think the issue really is supportive housing, more funding from the provincial and federal governments, and politicians throughout this region have been reaching out and crying about this for the last couple of years, and no one's listening. So then that's why you see this situation coming to a peak with a rather dramatic act on behalf of these 15 mayors.
You touch on something there, Doug, that I think is worth exploring a little bit further when you mention the negative impact on communities because of these encampments. Because based on your op-ed that you wrote this week, while you do not support the use of the notwithstanding clause, I get the sense, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I get the sense that you do believe these encampments should be cleared out.
Well, I believe that we should be helping people immediately with supportive housing when people are on the streets. We don't allow them to go into encampments. We encourage them into supportive housing, but we don't have that, and that's the problem. And we need the provincial and federal governments to start taking notice of what's happening in our communities. And I agree with the mayors in terms of raising the flag about this. It's a very, very serious situation. The communities within the region of Waterloo that are close to encampments have suffered from this. I asked for a police report about this, and we've had over 10,000 police occurrences within the immediate areas surrounding encampments and shelter addresses. So it's a huge problem, and we need to talk about vulnerable communities along with vulnerable individuals. We need to help both groups.
So what can we do? And I would never disagree. Like, I can't disagree with that. I don't want to disagree with that. I think you're right. Both groups. We don't want neighborhoods, established neighborhoods, to suffer. We don't want people to suffer to the point that they're living in tents. But there is no overnight solution here, Doug. So what do we do while we wait for? Yeah. So what do we do in the meantime before we get that supportive housing?
There has to be more of a public outcry. I mean, we don't need a $200 bonus from the provincial government after Christmas or a relief on the GST for 2 months. What we need is sustainable funding from these levels of government to help us at the municipal level. And by doing that, we could lower municipal taxes, and we could go ahead and get the supportive programs in place. The province and the feds are not listening. They are not on the ground. And I've been saying that for the last couple of years. And I think most municipal politicians would agree with that.
I've been kind of nibbling around the edges of something for a little while that I think might help us get somewhere faster. And I'll just float the trial balloon with you, Doug, because building supportive housing is going to take time. But I look around our community and I see a lot of motels, and I know that we use them, we rent rooms, etc., but I think we need to be bolder. I think we could be bolder. And if we're in the business of expropriating farmland, heck, let's be in the business of expropriating properties. Let's take those motels and use them for housing. What do you say?
Well, I agree with you. I have no disagreement with that. I mean, you've even got old movie theaters that are standing empty, huge ones. But again, Mike, it comes back to financing. We don't. You can't go to the local taxpayer. I mean, we started off with a 12% budget this year, and we're ending up right now around 8%. And you can't keep going back to the local taxpayer with these issues and saying you have to pay even more. I'm not prepared to do that. I'm prepared to pressure the upper orders of government to help us.
I would certainly support that as well, because those municipal increases are getting unsustainable for some. That is for sure.
They absolutely are. And all of us at the regional and municipal councils, we hear the outcries in the community, and we're dumbfounded in terms of the cuts we're going to have to make with regards to how it's going to hurt some people.
One of the big items in that budget is, of course, the police budget. That was a hot topic this week. Doug, I'll ask you to hang on for just a moment. We'll continue, okay?
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Doug Craig, regional councillor representing Cambridge. Some ideas around the hue and cry we need to raise from municipalities to get support, financial support from upper levels of government. And as we look at the municipal tax increases and the battle that goes on within those council chambers, including the battle over our police budget, we'll talk to Doug about that and more as we continue council chambers this morning on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
So if I get jealous.
Justin Timberlake and Selfish on your All Request Friday here on the program. Every Friday is an All Request Friday. We'll play a little bit of your favorite song. All you have to do is ask. Friday mornings at this time is also the time we do a segment called Council Chambers, allowing us to spend some time with one of our elected representatives and do a deeper dive into municipal issues. Today, we're with Regional Councillor Doug Craig, who has penned an op-ed this week that is talking about the issue of the day, and that is encampments. While Doug does not believe in the use of the notwithstanding clause, he firmly believes that we must do something about the encampment situation to protect vulnerable neighborhoods in our communities. Doug, one of the other big issues, and you alluded to it when we were talking in the first segment, and that is the municipal budget. 8% is what you're trying to work it down to regionally, but that's still a lot of money for people living in this community. And the big piece of it, of course, is the police budget, which was the subject of a rather interesting back and forth between one of your colleagues on council and Police Chief Crowell this week. In a general sense, how do you feel about what the police board is proposing in this budget?
Well, you have to have a perspective on this, and it's not comfortable anywhere in the province. If you look across the province, I'll give you some examples. Peel Region is looking at 21% increase. Durham's looking at 16%. Niagara at 13%, Halton at 13%, and we are now sitting with a police budget in the region of Waterloo at, I think it's 8.5%. And, that still hurts. The point is that the board has done everything possible to keep the costs in line. But there are a number of factors that are dictated to the board in terms of different issues that come up that have to be looked at that we can't control. The obvious one for everyone, of course, is inflation. To a certain extent, negotiations, because we can't just simply say we're not going to pay you because it's an arbitration system. And it goes to arbitration, which dictates final outcomes that the board doesn't have control over. So these kinds of issues are all part and parcel of the summation of why you're looking at increased costs.
I'm glad you brought up arbitration as just one part of this that's out of the board's and council's hands here, because when it comes to the police budget, while I recognize that you as a regional councillor absolutely want to know what it is that you're paying for, the quarrel would be with the province and legislation, because that's how these budgets are put together when it comes to police services.
Well, it's always been a quarrel with the province over the last 20 years that I'm aware of. So you end up with arbitration, and the new ceiling is the OPP in terms of, I think, first-class officers, $120,000. So you're looking across the region, the province, and these go to arbitration, and the arbitrators will look at that settlement as a target in terms of what officers ought to be paid. I don't disagree with it. I'm just saying that this is the system we're in.
Do you feel as though the budget as presented by the police service is transparent enough?
Oh, it's always transparent. The people that don't get the answers they want or disagree will always claim we're not being transparent. I've heard that for many years, and that's basically the bottom line. The board puts out a full report about all the activities, the hirings, civilian hires, the online issues that are going on in terms of investigations, everything. It's all transparent. Some people just don't like what they're hearing and then will claim the opposite. So that's where I stand on transparency.
Doug, I appreciate your time on our show this morning. Thank you very much for being here.
It's always a pleasure, Mike. Take care now.
You too. Bye-bye. Doug Craig is a regional councillor who represents Cambridge, joins us for some frank talk around big issues in the region: encampments, the budget, the police budget, and its transparency or lack thereof, according to some of Doug's colleagues. Really interesting times when we try to figure out how to make things work locally with so many pressures that could be alleviated by more support from provincial and federal governments. All right, as we come up on a break and we get closer to 10:30, which is the coach's show every Friday morning, Rangers head coach UC Ahokas will join us. I'm in my Rangers mode. I've got a pair of Rangers tickets. I've got a couple of pairs, but I want to give away one pair right now. Can we do that? Would you like to win a pair of Kitchener Rangers tickets to tonight's game? They have been provided us by our good buddy Gord Harris, who is the sponsor of our pregame show, the Harris Law pregame show. I can put those tickets in your hands if you can answer really easy Rangers trivia. Oh, baby, you better brace yourself. But if you think you can answer the question, get in line on the phones right now, and we'll give away the tickets to the first person who can answer really easy Rangers trivia coming up. If you want to play and win a pair of tickets to tonight's game, call us at 519-570-2545, star 570, or 1-800-570-5715. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Okay, Weird Al. My beloved was just giving me a hard time yesterday because she doesn't think I'm yet in the Christmas spirit enough. And I thought I was off to a great start with the start of this song anyway. And then you realize it's Weird Al Yankovic and Christmas at Ground Zero. That for Ron on our All Request Friday here on the program. If you want to hear a little bit of your favorite song when you call in to talk to Devin Robertson, our guy on the other side of the glass, you can just let him know the song that you would like to hear a bit of, or send me an email, mike@570news.com. We'll fit in as many as we can during this show, and any we have to put in the bank and save for next week, we will do that as well. Every Friday is an All Request Friday here on the program. Just a couple minutes away from your 10:30 update. And then, of course, Friday mornings at 10:30, it is the Coaches Show with Rangers head coach UC Ahokas, which gets me thinking hockey. And you may have heard over the past week and a bit, City Council in Mississauga, by a narrow margin, doing something extremely goofy, and that is upholding its ban on road hockey. That's right. In Mississauga, there is a bylaw that prevents any sporting activity on residential streets, which is just the goofiest thing. And the fact that they didn't overturn this when they had the opportunity to do so baffles me. It led to a front page story in our Waterloo Region Record about similar legislation that sort of exists in Kitchener, but is not actively enforced. Bylaw officers are encouraged to use discretion. But in Kitchener, we did try several years ago, a couple of terms ago, in fact, of municipal council, to make it more clear that road hockey is allowed, if not encouraged, on residential streets, so long as it's not impeding traffic, etc. But we never really got around to finalizing that in Kitchener. So technically, by the letter of the law, here in Kitchener, it's still frowned upon to play road hockey, but nobody's going to ticket you for it. In Mississauga, on the other hand, it's like the Grinch that stole road hockey, which is just, honestly, the goofiest thing. Like, people in Mississauga are clearly so uptight that they don't want anybody having fun on the street. Basketball hoops at the edge of the road hockey in the middle of it. No, not in Mississauga. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio. The Kitchener Rangers goal song to get you ready for another big game tonight at the Kitchener Memorial Auditorium. I say another because it's one of 3 this week. It started on Tuesday versus London. It wraps up tomorrow in Erie, and tonight the task at hand for your Kitchener Rangers, the Windsor Spitfires. UC Ahokas is the head coach of the Kitchener Rangers, joins us for the Coaches Show every Friday morning at this time. Good morning, UC.
Good morning.
Do you feel as though your team showed you everything they had on Tuesday night against London?
No, we didn't play good. We didn't play our game, and we didn't show our identity. We were tentative, and we're waiting, and we're thinking too much, and that's what happened. And when you don't react and you're waiting, you're not playing the way you should. So we didn't play well. Parsons played great though, but that was a bad game from us. Nothing taken away from London. They're a good team, but we didn't play where we should have.
What did you need to see more of from your team?
Well, physicality and all in all, our pens weren't there, and we didn't win loose pucks battles, and all in all, that was the biggest thing. So we had to defend long times, and then the rhythm of the game went wrong. So 5-on-5, we weren't good at all.
You mentioned the play of Jackson Parsons on Tuesday night, and he was sensational for sure. What can you say about how he has really elevated his game this year?
Well, of course, he's 20-year-old, and when you have a 20-year-old goalie, it's always good in this league, and he's been improving the whole time, and he's a really important part when you have a young team, that you have a great goalie like Jackson's, and now I think he's, after November, he's picked up his game even to another level.
You mentioned the young team, and the team announced yesterday another player has been signed in Hayden Ellis. Does he work his way into the lineup this weekend?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
So what does he bring to your hockey club?
Well, he speed, hard work, great two-way player, and all in all, good work ethic, and things what we want to see here in Kitchener. So I think he's a good add for our hockey team.
You talk about speed, and I just have to go back for a moment to Jack Pridham. I have an old saying that you can't teach speed. It's a real asset for a player, and Pridham has tremendous speed for your hockey club.
Well, yeah, for sure. He's a great skater, but that's how you create offense, and that's what he's done, and he's played really well the first 3 games, and let's hope he continues to improve.
How important is it for you, UC, to get a better result tonight after a bit of a letdown on Tuesday?
Of course, we want to get back to our level, how we want to play. All in all, how we play, that's the most important, not the result. How we play and what we show on the ice, that's the most important thing. And then if we do well, the result is usually good.
The last time you played the Windsor Spitfires, nobody needs to be reminded of what happened, but you were a much different team and probably not feeling very well. Do you talk about any of that coming into the game tonight? How do you prepare?
Well, it's a good reminder. And remember what they did when they scored their 9th goal, and when the score's 9-1 and they're putting their first first power play in. It's a good reminder for us, and it'll be a great game. Great game to go. Well, yeah, we're a different team for sure, and we're not guys are not puking on the bench in between periods, so it'll be a different game today.
It will for sure. Always love a Friday night at the Odd. We'll see you at the rink, UC. Thank you.
Thank you.
UC Ahokas, head coach of the Kitchener Rangers, says it pretty bluntly. There you go. In case you were wondering, we had players the first weekend of the season who were getting sick on the bench, who were using buckets at their stalls in the dressing room between periods. That was the first weekend of the season for the Kitchener Rangers. They lost their opener versus the Erie Otters. They went into Windsor the next night and lost again. And I've created my own little rule about that game versus Windsor on Saturday, September the 28th. The number one rule of that game against Windsor is to not talk about the final score in that game against Windsor. It got a little bit out of hand. But as you heard UC say, this is a different team, and it's a team with a bit of a memory. And don't forget yourself that after those 2 losses on the opening weekend of the season, the Rangers went through the entire month of October Every single game in October, no losses in regulation. So not bad for the Kitchener Rangers at all. And now they're coming off a loss versus the London Knights on Tuesday. The head coach not happy with the way the team played, so looking for a return to the team's identity tonight versus the Windsor Spitfires, with a little bit of that memory of how the game went in Windsor about a month and a half ago. And another new Kitchener Ranger, Hayden Ellis, who has just joined the team. He's committed to Northeastern University, if I've got it right, but he's committed to an NCAA program for 2026-27, but he has decided to come here to Kitchener. He was an 8th-round draft pick back in 2023 for Kitchener. And now that we've got this new rule where you can play in this league and still maintain your NCAA academic eligibility, the Rangers have another speedy, skilled player with a good work ethic, the coach says, to be in their lineup tonight versus the Windsor Spitfires. Game time, 7 o'clock at the Memorial Auditorium. Harris Law pregame show time, 6:30 right here on 570 News Radio with me and Paul Fixter. Oh, and speaking of Paul Fixter, he joins us right after this. From the Coaches Show to the other Coaches Show coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. It's a lot of shows on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. This is your home of Kitchener Rangers hockey, so every Friday morning we make sure you have everything you need to get excited for and ready for the big game Friday night. Rangers Spits at the Memorial Auditorium. Harris Law pregame show gets underway at 6:30, and joining me on the pregame show and the rest of the broadcast, Paul Fixter, who also joins us at this time for the other Coaches Show. Morning, Fixie.
Good morning, Mike. Are you okay after your Steelers lost last night?
You want to start there? Is that what you want to do? I was about to say the number one rule of last night's football game is the same as the number one rule of the last time the Rangers and Spitfires played, okay? We're not going to talk about it. It hurt. It hurt a lot. But it also hurt a lot, the Kitchener Rangers, that first game versus Windsor. And I know you were just listening to head coach Ahokas, who suggested or at least hinted that the Rangers' memory is long-ish. They remember that there was a top power play unit out there late in the game. They remember that the 9th goal was celebrated like it was the first goal, etc.
Yeah, I certainly caught all that, and that'll be something I ask Greg Walters as I go across the hall at the start of the game. But, Mike, what I really stuck out with me is he didn't mince words when he said, and I quote, "We had players puking on the bench."
Yes.
Oh, man. He doesn't mince words, does he?
He certainly does not. And it was well documented. You never make excuses. You got to play the games when they're scheduled and when they're put in front of you. But we could clearly see, and I mentioned it before the break, once we got out of that first weekend and then the team went on that run through the entire month of October without a regulation loss, clearly the first 2 games of this season, not at all indicative of what this Rangers team is all about.
No, they certainly weren't. And they've vastly improved since that weekend, no question about it. I also liked what Coach said, Mike. He said, we didn't show our identity. And that's the big thing. And he took some of the blame for the loss on Tuesday night, saying he gave them too much information, basically information overload. And the players weren't able to go out and just play. They were thinking too much. And, you know, sometimes when we think too much, we get ourselves in trouble.
Well, and when you're on the ice, you want it to be muscle memory, right? You want to have worked on these things in practice so that it comes automatic because, quite frankly, thinking in some situations can be a little dangerous. You just want it to be automatic.
Yeah, repetition in practice is what allows you to go out and execute during the game. And you know, if you don't have that muscle memory or just instinctive ability to go out and play, then you're off your game, no question about it.
What do you take away from Tuesday night's loss to the London Knights, Paul?
That they're a damn good hockey club. They are one heck of a hockey club, Mike, and I don't think we saw the best London effort either. I didn't think Easton Cowan was very good. There were a few guys. Denver Barkey was good. Haltonen was okay, but I didn't think they showed their true what they're capable of. The other takeaway is Kitchener can be a lot better than they were. No question about it. I think I said this on the air on Tuesday night. I look forward to the next game because I believe Kitchener will be a lot better performer, and let's see where that goes. But that's a heck of a hockey club. It's going to take an awful lot for anybody to beat that London team in a 7-game series.
For what it's worth, that next game is on December the 15th in London. That would probably be around the time of year where players who are going to play for Canada's World Junior entry will be gone. It will also be the third game in as many days for the London Knights as Kitchener plays Friday and then on that Sunday in London. For what it's worth, looking ahead.
Yeah, and they certainly will have some players away at the World Juniors, no question about it. That time of year, it's tough to really look at records because, they take your best players, no question about that. But, it's going to be tough beating London. It always is, but it's something that Kitchener is capable of doing. And I love the way the coach said, we need to battle more. We were tentative. We didn't show our identity. Jackson Parsons always gives them a chance to win. And he did that the other night. He kept the game a lot closer than it could have been. I mean, you think about it. He stopped Easton Cowan on a breakaway. He stopped Denver Barkey almost on a breakaway. Like Carson Campbell was kind of on his backside, but he had 2 chances there. I mean, there were numerous 6, 7, 8 great scoring opportunities for London Knights.
Not to mention the penalty shot for Barkey. That came after the breakaway save. Yeah. So Parsons was out of this world. There's no question about it. And I'm starting to wonder, Paul, I mean, the players change. We know that the culture is changing in Kitchener, but the record is there if anybody wants to look at it. Like, is there as much a mental block versus London as anything else right now? Because this has been going on a long time that London has really dominated the series between the two teams.
Well, not only the series between Kitchener and London. Mike, you and I talked about this on the bus one time. London seems to have the entire Western Conference. Like, there isn't one team that has the upper hand on London. So maybe there is something, the mental mindset comes into play. I mean, they're certainly loaded up with talent, and talent gives you the opportunity to have success, but there must be a mental mindset, and it gets in people's psyche, no question about it. And I know when I was coaching, they were games that you certainly got up for, more than others. Like, you wanted to beat London.
Well, and 52 wins last season, so your point is very well taken. There were not a lot of teams that had success against the London Knights a year ago, no question about it.
It's funny you mentioned their wins from last season. I was just looking at the standings before we went on the air, and poor Peterborough is still stuck on 1 win.
Paul, it's such a long season up there in the Liftlock City. Such a long season.
My God. Mike, I can't wait to talk to you tonight about Hayden Ellis, the latest addition to the hockey club. You know what makes me feel old? I coached his father, Matt, in Rochester, and little Hayden Ellis and his brother were running around the wives' room. My wife reminded me throwing popcorn all over the place and creating havoc in the wives' room when I was in Rochester. Man, oh man, does life go fast.
You will have to remind young Hayden about that.
Yeah. His mother used to bring the boys into the wives' room before the game, and they were at every game. And I loved coaching Matt Ellis. I ran the penalty kill, and Matt Ellis was our best penalty killer. And it's no surprise that he's gone on to be an assistant coach with the Buffalo Sabres for the last 5 or 6 years. He's a great hockey mind and played at St. Mike's Majors in the Ontario Hockey League.
I love it. I love to see it. And yes, it does move by so fast. This week for the Kitchener Rangers, Paul, we were already talking about it last week. And then the Rangers went out, took care of business, beating Peterborough, beating Sarnia, and setting the stage for this trio of big games. London, Windsor tonight, Erie tomorrow. How big is this game tonight for Kitchener?
It's huge, Mike. It's a great test. We've talked about this weekend being a test, or this week being a test. You know, the first one didn't go as planned. This is a big game. I think it's payback. The coach has said that. And this is a very good hockey club. They've got 15 wins, the Windsor Spitfires. And then Erie, we know what Erie's capable of. So this will tell a lot about this club. It's not make or break in the season if it doesn't go the way it's planned, but it certainly is an indicator of what this team is all about. No question about it. It's a huge test. And, Windsor's coming off. Everybody talks about how good Barrie is. Windsor's coming off a win up in Barrie last night, 2-1 win. So Windsor's capable of winning close games as well. It's a good hockey club. I'm really looking forward to tonight's game as much as I was the London game.
Yeah, you and me both. It should be a dandy tonight, and looking forward to seeing you, my friend, and we'll spend some time together this weekend on the road. It's been a while since we've had a long trip like this.
Yeah, the last time we were in Erie, Mike, I think it was the Eclipse.
Oh my gosh! Well, back
No, we've been there. We've been there once since, but yeah.
But that was just an in and out. We're going to get some extra time together this weekend.
I look forward to it. Thanks, Mike.
Me too. Thanks, Fixie. See you tonight.
All right, sounds good.
Paul Fixter. He's our color commentator on Kitchener Rangers broadcasts, and he joins us every Friday morning at this time for the Other Coaches Show. Just another way that we get you ready for the big game tonight. Rangers Spitfires, our Harris Law pregame show goes on the air at 6:30 here on 570 News Radio. Do I ever like that choice on our All Request Friday here today? Some R. Dean Taylor and Indiana Wants Me by request for Terry here on the program. Every Friday is an All Request Friday. Every Friday also means our Friday 4 Roundtable, an opportunity for us to discuss and dissect the week's big stories. We'll start that right after this on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. The Friday 4 panel, our opportunity to discuss the week's big stories, get some different perspectives on them. And our panelists providing said perspectives with us this morning. Joanne McNeish is here, an associate professor of marketing at Toronto Metropolitan University. Good morning, Joanne.
Sorry. Good morning, Mike. How are you?
I'm excellent, thank you. And yourself?
I'm great.
Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. Neil Anstedt is with us as well. Neil is a ward councillor in Listowel, the beautiful municipality of North Perth. Good morning, Neil.
Good morning, Mike, and thank you again for making a 6-year-old's day at the Rangers game a couple weeks ago.
I just wish I could have had a little bit more time. Sometimes, like most of the times, intermissions are perfectly chill. We were a little bustling there, but always happy to have guests. Thanks for bringing them by.
Absolutely, thank you.
Good stuff. And speaking of the Rangers game, I guess Tom Galloway and I decided we'd spend the whole day together today. Is that it, Tom? Because I'll see you at the rink tonight.
I'll buy you dinner tonight, Mike.
You're so generous, Tom. That's what I appreciate about you. Tom is 56 years now, the timekeeper. I got that right?
Correct.
56 years as the timekeeper at Kitchener Rangers game. And, of course, a former counselor here in the region. All right, let's dive into the topics du jour, and the biggest of them just was announced yesterday. How do you like getting some of your own money back? And a GST holiday. Joanne, I'll start with you on the pre-election baubles. I don't know what we're going to call them, but I guess that's up to you, that we heard from the Trudeau government yesterday.
Right. So I'm going to say, unlike the Doug Ford check, this one is completely off-brand. I don't think this really fits, and it really does feel like trying to buy my vote. It's quite an interesting one, actually. It's for work. You have to be working in order to be eligible for this. Now, that's carefully said, but because, for example, if you claimed you have to have claimed the tax credit for pension and employment. So first of all, it looks like it's for working Canadians plus those who have claimed EI, and you have to have made $150,000 or less. And that will be 64% of Canadians. So first of all, I thought everybody was living at the poverty line. I hadn't realized that 150,000 is a struggling working Canadian. So that was kind of interesting to me. And then the second piece is, of course, retailers and those that have to collect the GST, which is the second piece of the, I love that expression, Christmas baubles. They have to now figure out, how do you segment that part of the revenue? Which part do you claim? I mean, I think they've just shifted the burden as usual to other people. Oh, and the best part is that when you come to your taxes, of course, you have to claim this rebate. So you'll pay taxes on this. And it's sort of that fascinating thing where Doug Ford did a simple program. Everybody gets it. I mail it out to everybody. I'm done. Oh, and by the way, the good news, that check will be in the mail. So as long as we get the strike settled, it's all good.
And we will talk about that on this Friday for roundtable discussion as well. Neil, what's your reaction to the announcement from the feds yesterday?
Yeah, lots to unpack here, and I think Joanne kind of touched on some of the main points. But interesting, I don't know if we'll call it pre-election posturing or what we'll call it. But again, I think it comes back to the fact that, yes, we're getting some of our money back. And I always say, there's an old saying, if you want to get the pulse of news, just go to the local arena or the local coffee shop. And you talk to people there, and anybody I've spoken to says this is a gimmick. It's basically a trick. It's just a way of basically saying, oh, we're helping you out. And again, the items that they're putting it on, again, I agree that those are things that are going to be, people need these things, especially coming up on Christmas time. But the $150,000 piece, I would still say that that's a significant amount of money that people are earning, if you're earning that. And $250, if anybody goes to the grocery store, you're not going to get all that much for $250 anymore. So, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's a gimmick. It's a nice news story that they're going to get out to the public right before Christmas. But quite frankly, I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference. I found it almost ironic that the $150,000 is the threshold, as if without saying it, the feds are saying, you know what, even if you make $150K in this country these days, it's pretty darned expensive out there. Tom Galloway, over to you on this one.
Well, I don't think there's any question that this is an electioneering gimmick, but my lament is that it might be effective, because we've seen it in the past. This is following the example of Doug Ford in Ontario with the elimination of license plate fees and such things, and now the $200 check, which goes to even Galen Weston. At least the feds have put some kind of a threshold on it, and yeah, it's 150,000 seems like a high threshold, and no doubt there will be people that might appreciate this money, and it will actually put food on the table. But for the vast majority of people who receive this check, it's money in a bank account or something, and probably won't be really identified. And I would much rather see that anything of this nature would really go through the income tax system and have some kind of a deduction or some kind of credit or something that would end up with a $250 credit to an individual or family or whoever that can really use it. Because the people I've spoken to, not so much with this one because that's just yesterday, but with the Ford one, is they're just going to decide who they're going to donate the money to, or which political party other than Ford they're going to give the money to. And it is cynical, I realize, but these things can be effective. And we've seen that particularly at the provincial level.
So at the risk of being that guy that always comes back to the numbers, I'm going to be that guy that always comes back to the numbers. Am I the only one a wee bit concerned with both of these rebates that we're spending money that we literally do not have? This is our great-grandchildren's money, isn't it? Like, I don't know. I'm very concerned about that. And I wonder then about any sort of fiscal responsibility on the part of elected leaders. Am I the only one here that feels that way? Joanne, you're with me?
I don't know. No, I have the same concern, Mike, but it's in the world of politics and trying to get reelected, it's all about today, and it's not so much about the great grandchildren. So, and you see it as well. I mean, the province of Ontario, I don't know how many millions and millions of dollars they're spending on feel good Ontario ads right now, and it's all electioneering as well, and that's probably more money than what they're giving out in the $200 checks. So again, I'm not a cynical person by nature, but these kinds of things go on when elections are imminent.
And the one thing I would add too, Mike, is it's a great point, Tom. The one thing I would add, just in terms of money we don't have, I don't know if anyone's looked at our national debt clock as of late. 1.4 trillion projected national debt by the end of 2024. Not a small number by any means. So again, talking about future generations, that is going to be crippling for our grandkids or grandchildren down the road for sure.
So, I mean, I agree with Mike, and it is that sense of what it needs, I think, is a citizens committee for budgets, because all levels of government are spending money in such a ridiculous way and not on the things that we made the contract. It's like they've broken the contract with us. So don't disagree. There's always been politicking. In the past, distant past, it was often wealthy individuals using their own money. I think that what I really resent now are governments using my money to politic. And I think it's at all levels of government, at all levels of silliness. It is as if they treat it like their money when they give it out, and then they have no thought to the consequence. Because I always think of these kinds of programs. There's the cost, the cost to give the checks to people, but you have to create those checks. You have to run the program. You have to monitor the program. You have to get it back on the other sources of income on your tax returns, and it is as if. And again, I get politicking, but these people are so ridiculous in what they spend money on. And they're spending on just, one example in Toronto, we put up a Christmas tree, a menorah, and there's 3 other holidays around Christmas. I'm getting to be a Grinch now, and I'm going, we can't afford to celebrate holidays anymore. That is probably $1 million by the time they have a ceremony, light up the trees, pay for the electricity, etc., etc. And if you go across every city celebrating, putting up flag, all of that, we're past the days of the fun things or Taylor Swift concert. Sorry, Swifties. Back to that topic. We paid people a fortune of money to put up signs that we're going to take back down, and security and garbage. So I think we need now a citizens' revolt or a citizens, we're concerned about the budget. Here's all the line items that we'll take out. Thank you very much. And by the way, the one problem cities are in the worst shape because most of their budget is salaries. There's probably only several millions of dollars. Probably in Toronto, I could get 10 million out of the budget with the fluff. But at the federal level, civil servants do the best they can, but the government's not even listening to the people they work with. Sorry, I went on too long, but you just hit a nerve where I live now. It's like, can't afford it. I
think many people are feeling the same in their cities today. Joanne McNeish, Neil Anstett, Tom Galloway with us on the Friday 4 Roundtable this morning. A quick break, back with more. It's the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. And with us around the virtual table this morning, Neil Anstett, Tom Galloway, Joanne McNeish. I just noticed during that commercial break that Canada Post is trending on my social media platform. Who knew? Who knew? That's what we're talking about next. Maybe my computer overheard. Neil, I'll start with you on this. A Leger poll earlier this week suggested most Canadians, more than 60%, think the federal government should intervene with back-to-work legislation. What do you think? Is that the right idea for the Canada Post strike?
So just talking about strikes, what a year we've had in North America for labor disruptions. I mean, if you go all the way back, you can talk about the ports, you can talk about the auto workers, the rail strike we've had now, the ports in Canada, now the postal workers. 2024 has been a crazy, crazy year for organized labor in North America. So I think that's the first thing we should talk about. The next thing, obviously, we've got multiple labor disruptions going on in Canada right now. We've got the ports, as everybody knows. We've got the railway strike, which is still not settled, and now we've got Canada Post. The government has certainly shown, although they have to be sometimes dragged a little bit, I think, but they have shown the ability to intervene in these situations. I would almost liken Canada Post, and maybe people might disagree with me, but I would say they're trending towards almost an essential service in many ways. Because again, with people's mail, you're talking about bills, you're talking about checks, all sorts of things that people really need to function in their day to day. So in terms of getting involved, I think that the government's going to have to do something at some point. We have so many things that we rely on the mail for. And not only that, is certainly, maybe I'm a little bit cynical on this one, but I really hope that my kids can get their letter from Santa this year.
Nothing wrong with that. And there's a reason that the strikes happen now, right? Where the union has some leverage here. Tom, what do you think? Back to work legislation?
Well, I think at some point, yes. I respect people's right to strike, but I do put it into kind of three categories. We have the essential services, of course, which we can't really allow to strike, police, and so on. And then we have a group where it might be government services, typically, where I think there should be a moderate level of strike available, but at some point in time, it gets to be too much. They're a quasi-essential service. I would put the post office in that category. And then there's the other category where, probably the right to strike, it could be, unmitigated, so to speak. But in terms of the post office, I agree with Neil. It borders on an essential service. Our economy, to some extent, relies on it, but it's more than just that. You maybe read in the paper today, some of the social isolation now that's going to occur to seniors, particularly when they can't receive mail from their grandchildren or send out cards, which they are, more likely to do for birthdays and other events. And at this time of year, of course, not just Christmas, but charitable organizations are on their annual appeals. And I worry about that and how that could get impacted, not only getting out to people, but then, will the donations be back in time for the tax credit that people are looking for at this time of year? And I'm quite concerned about that. So I would hope the federal government will step in relatively short order, and whether that requires binding arbitration or whatever that solution is, they should put it into place.
Joanne, your thoughts on back to work legislation, intervention from the feds in the Canada Post strike?
Well, actually, it is fascinating to me. So 10 years ago, when Canada Post roughly struck at that point, people just said, well, we don't need a post office anymore, get rid of it. And it's fascinating to me that 10 years later, we're saying, no, they need to get back to work. So both Tom and Neil have alluded to sort of the personal side of the mail, but more critically, the reason there's pressure on the government is the small and large businesses can't deliver flyers, can't deliver holiday catalogs. And so they're deeply concerned in terms of it impacting retail revenue at this time of year. And the second piece is FedEx, UPS, Amazon. They only have their own delivery services for the urban core. Canada Post does all the deliveries in rural and even suburban areas. So if you're FedEx, you do not have the space for the potential volume that could come your way. If you're a manufacturer, you're not getting delivery of parts. And so we have a situation where Canada Post is still a vital service. And I always think Canada Post protects us from people charging us for email, because the day we don't have an alternative to have communication in the mail, Google and everybody else will start charging you $10, $15, $20 for your mailbox. Right now they charge companies, one of these days, how much would you pay for your email box? So it's really a fascinating turnaround for Canada Post. Are they trying to figure out their business model? Government, anyway, that's a different story. But I think at this point it is time. And the union was smart about the time of year they chose, because the pressure isn't going to come from consumers. It's actually going to come from small, medium business in terms of the advertising mail and the competitors, FedEx, UPS, all of them have the Prime Minister on the phone going, we cannot deliver all the product that we need to, which in fact is reducing sale. And by the way, just to remember, 2.2 billion letters, 4 billion addressed and unaddressed pieces of advertising mail, and only a mere 286 million parcels delivered by Canada Post. Like, the scope of this is extraordinary still.
Very
what a competitor in the face of the internet.
No question about it. Joanne McNeish, Neil Anstett, Tom Galloway with us on our Friday 4 roundtable this morning. We continue on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. It is one of the oldest topics in talk radio, and we're going to get into it this next 30 minutes. Plus, how do you balance a police budget? That conversation coming up right after this update from the 570 News Center on the Mike Farwell Show, your Friday 4 roundtable, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Here tonight, music playing, our bodies swaying in time.
A little earlier this morning when we played some R. Dean Taylor on our All Request Friday here on the show, Matt Hutchison, who just read the news, said, "Oh, I love it. Indiana Wants Me reminds me of my days at this other radio station that played music." I said, "Mine too." And I'll bet you Andy Kim's Rock Me Gently brings back some memories for Hutch, too. I think I saw Tom Galloway bopping his head along to this one also. Tom is with us on the Friday
kind of
4.
Strange introduction. But,
Tom is one of
the next topic, or what I think is the next topic.
That's a very good point by you. Very good point. Tom is with us on our Friday 4 roundtable this morning, as is Joanne McNeish, who's an assistant professor of marketing at Toronto Metropolitan University, and Neil Anstett, a ward councillor in Listowel, municipality of North Perth. Yes, rock me gently, Tom Galloway. Maybe a regional councillor was gently rocking the boat this week when he challenged our police chief on the budget presentation. I don't know where we go from here, but I know this much. Police budgets have been under intense scrutiny, and they make up a large portion of municipal budgets. It's just a coincidence, Tom, that you're starting first on this topic, but you've got some pretty deep knowledge and experience in this regard. I know you do.
Well, I don't think it's a coincidence. I think you set this up.
No, Thomas, I would never do that.
But so let me be transparent, because we're going to talk about police budgeting transparency. So I should first say that I was on the police board for 18 years and I chaired it for 17. So I presided over 17 budgets. So now having said that, I have been gone for 6 years, and the board and the service, of course, has changed, and they have every right to change the way things are done. I'm not saying things should never change. But the first thing I wanted to say in this regard is some people believe that because there is a police board and the control of the budget does not rest in the hands of regional council, in our case, or municipal council in other cases, that lacks transparency. Well, I disagree with that. I agree entirely with the Police Services Act that there should be a separation between governance and budgeting when it comes to police, so that the politicization of police is minimized. I've seen politicization take place in other jurisdictions where it's not the way we have it. So I support the way it's done currently. Now, having said that, there are some concerns that I have about transparency, and the one that, Mike, you won't be surprised about is how the staffing budget is put together by budgeting for new hires starting in January the 1st, hires that cannot be possibly hired, in some cases not at all for the year, in other cases later in the year. And then the result of having a surplus accumulating on that particular salary line. This has nothing to do with overtime. And then at somewhere in the middle of the year, in order for the surplus at the end of the year not to look too large, some transfers are made to reserve funds in order to, in my view at least, minimize the year-end number. In my time, we did not do any mid-year transfers to reserves. We waited till the end of the year, saw what the surplus was, and then we would put the money into different reserve funds. But on the other hand, we also did not budget for new staff from January the 1st. We budgeted from July the 1st, September the 1st, December the 1st, wherever we realized that we could actually hire people, because there is a limit on how many people you can hire by the number of seats that you can get at the police college at different times, at different intakes of the year. So you can't possibly hire everybody on January the 1st, even if you wanted to. So that is a concern that I have about transparency. I think that should be, if you need to have more reserves, then you should budget for more reserves and be completely transparent about it, and not do it through this particular method. And the other thing I would say too is that I am concerned that the continuing use of the statistic of the number of uniformed officers to population. Now, it's not necessarily a bad statistic, but you have to always look at these statistics with some kind of a lens. And in our particular case, we have one of the most civilianized police services in the province. And therefore, there are people in various positions who are civilians and not uniformed officers, as they might be in other services. So in other services, you may have the director of human resources who is the superintendent, a uniformed officer, but in our case, we don't. We have a civilian, and there's numerous examples of that. So when the other services put together their number of uniformed officers to population, they have the advantage of having people in various administrative responsibilities that can make it into that statistic, but not so in our particular case. So when the comparisons are made service to service, we look like we're at the low end. But if you were to incorporate all, that factor, but that's to me, that is an argument that I heard for 18 years and had to resist for 18 years as we continued to civilianize service, which, I think in many ways is a good thing. But at the same time, realize that that statistic, which everybody likes to rely on, looks a little bit skewed in our particular case.
Great insight, Tom, and appreciate the deep experience on that. Joanne, I was curious, with you being on our panel this week, and I know how closely you've already referenced how carefully you watch municipal budgets. Policing in Toronto, I'm sure, is a large line item as well. How do you feel we're doing?
Well, so that's interesting. So I you know me, I love the numbers. So I did go and look. So Toronto's police budget is 1.2 billion. That serves a population of just the city of Toronto of 3 million people. So I literally asked Neil and Tom, it's like, gee, our budget doesn't look as big as your budget. But then both of them reminded me, but remember the area that we serve that's a little bit different. So it certainly, our budget is in total bigger, but per citizen is not as large. And so it's interesting, but I really appreciate what Tom was saying, because that's really the deep dive into the understanding of how do we take these budgets apart? How do we look at these numbers? Because millions of dollars are in Toronto, billions of dollars. Seems like it's all very necessary. And the other point is we all want the same service. We want the same level of protection. I wonder if the companion piece to this is the feeling that we as people no longer participate in the community with the police. It's that interesting notion. Have we passed part of our responsibility as citizens back to the police? In which case, if they're taking on more jobs, should they be paid for those jobs? So to me, this is a fascinating one, but it's, it's really interesting. I hadn't even realized 1.2 billion in Toronto. So it does say, what are they asking for? Why are they asking for it? But as citizens, and it sounds like our councillors are doing a great job in asking these questions. But it's such a visible thing. When the service is not there, it makes the headlines. And that's the real difficulty. I think it's unlike other services. Somehow, if the garbage service is not there, it doesn't make the headlines. I mean, maybe it does after a couple of weeks, but it's a unique kind of service. Policing is a unique kind of service.
Neil, I can't help but wonder, because we were just reporting this morning during All News Mornings about jurisdictions in this province supported by provincial police, which I know North Perth is, and makes this interesting to me too, how you're dealing with it there.
Yeah, it's a great point, Mike. And Tom touched on a lot of points that are really, really beneficial as well. And I don't have the experience, certainly as long as Tom being the police chair, but I was the chair of the police board for several years as well. And looking at our budget process right now, I always like to see what other municipalities are doing. And for municipalities that are being serviced by the OPP, everybody's seeing an increase. It's not just North Perth. It's not just other communities. Our particular case, we're seeing a 26% increase to our policing costs from last year, total of approximately $750,000 that's going to increase. And a lot of that, for just so that people are understanding that, a lot of that is a result of police contracts that have now been settled and ratified. So a lot of those are wages and benefits. And people may or may not know this. You don't actually have a lot of room in a police budget for other things. Most of it is benefits, salary, and pension. So there's not a lot of wiggle room there. The one thing I would like to highlight, though, is that us as a municipality, not just us, but other municipalities in the province, we're struggling with these costs. There needs to be some sort of a cost recovery program from the province to help us with this. Property taxes were never meant to fund all these things. They're meant to fund development. They're meant to fund roads, bridges, all those sorts of things. We don't have the ability, small municipalities in this province, to take care of this. It's as simple as that. We're seeing more and more downloading from the province, and we're expected to pay for all this. Just this line item alone, police budget for our municipal budget, 6% increase in taxes without looking at anything else, not paving a single road, not fixing a single pothole, nothing else, 6% just from our police. Our entire tax increase for 2024 was 5%. So our tax increase is going to be larger than last year as a result of one line item. So certainly we need to have some kind of a cost recovery program from the province, because we just simply can't do it. And again, just want to be clear here, I'm not saying that our police don't do great work. They do awesome work. And that's a job that a lot of people aren't willing to do. However, we still need some help from the province, because these costs are going to keep going higher and higher. There's going to be more contracts that are going to be settled, and it's not going to go down. It's only going to go up.
There must be a sense of frustration, Neil, because it's almost as though this contract, these numbers are imposed on you as a municipality.
Yeah, you're right. And when we got the contract, we got the contract from the police board, or from the police, and it was just handed to us, and they said, these are your costs. There's no negotiation. There's no discussion. These are the costs, and it's a $750,000 increase that we now have to take on, and we don't have a choice. It's an essential service. You need police. So we now have to go back to our residents and say, I'm sorry, your taxes are going to go up 6, 7, 8% because of all these things, mainly the police.
Neil Anstett, Tom Galloway, Joanne McNeish with us on the Friday 4 Roundtable this morning. A quick break, and when we come back, it's old, but apparently it's not tired for a topic on talk shows. I was surprised that it was raised just yesterday on the show. We'll talk about it with our guests in just a moment. It's the Mike Farwell Show and your Friday 4 Roundtable on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. And with us on the panel this morning, Joanne McNeish, Neil Anstett, Tom Galloway. I have been hosting this show on a full-time basis for more than 7 years now. But I've been at the radio station for 17 plus years. And over all those years, I would occasionally fill in as a talk show host. And I'll just be honest with you, there was an old saying in talk radio: if you want to get on the air and get the phones ringing, just talk to people about capital punishment and or abortion. Simple as that. That was a long time ago. But here we are, and we were talking on our show this week about the story about Canada's most notorious serial killer, his parole hearing, and how the family was not going to be able to attend in person to share their victim impact statements. That has since changed, but when the story first came out, we talked about it on the air. And it came as a surprise to me, to be perfectly honest. A number of people phoned in and said, we need to bring back the death penalty. And there was a lot of support for that. So I thought, you know what? Maybe I've been ignoring it for all these years, and I'd bring it up with our Friday 4 roundtable this morning. Joanne, I'll start with you. Forget who can attend a parole hearing. Is it time to reopen a conversation about capital punishment in this country?
So I guess I'm probably against capital punishment, because I would say, on the chance that that old expression, you sentence a single innocent person to death, that would always be my caution. But Bernardo's a fascinating one. Do you know it's 1990 or between 1987 and 1990 when he was first raping women and then murdered 3 people? I hadn't even realized it was that long, but the fear at that time does literally rival any of the other sort of notorious people, and the shock of who he murdered. So I wonder if he's just that rare example where we say, we know for sure he did it. But the other shocker for me is always his wife, Carla Homolka, who basically got off scot-free, and she participated in the murder and rape of her sisters. So to me, these two were a terrible marriage made in hell. So I think what people react to is always, why is it fair that they get to live on in prison? Isn't that a luxurious place? I sure hope we learned during COVID, it's not luxurious to be locked down in a single place all the time. And most of us had a house, apartment, someplace safe to be. So prison is not luxurious. That is not a way of life. And yes, he's living, but if that's living, no thank you. But it is a fascinating thing. It's what I wonder, having had a little bit of experience with someone being murdered, there's no closure to the event, and it doesn't help the people, the families that have to live on with this, like how awful it must be. So for all those reasons, I'm just not a fan, but it is a fascination to me of what do people think that will accomplish. That for me is always, if you could tell me that, maybe I could change my mind, but it is a fascination. And we all listen to those conversations. I have to tell you, it's like, okay, why do you think, what's that going to accomplish, and for whom?
That's a very interesting question in all of this, for sure. Neil, where do you land on this age-old question?
So it's interesting. I actually had to look this up. The date that the last execution, or the last when it was eliminated, was 1976. So just for your listeners, I was 12 years away from even being born. So I've never even been born, lived in a Canada that has capital punishment. So the only thing that I can go off of, just in terms of comparisons, is our closest neighbor, which is the United States. And obviously there is some states that have capital punishment, and there's some that don't. I mean, in terms of Joanne's point, the living in prison, I mean, if you look at the appeal process and you look at all these things, there's people that have had murders from the 1990s that are still on death row, as we'll call it. So, I mean, in terms of if we were to move to something like that in Canada, by the time you exhaust the appeals, you're still looking at 10, 20, 30 plus years before you'd even be getting to a point of an execution or a crime, or somebody being executed for a crime. But just looking at this situation, and again, I was relatively young when this all went down, but certainly Canada's most famous serial killer. I mean, the thing that I struggle with is that we're even having a conversation about a parole for this individual. For what he did, I don't even know why we're having a discussion about a parole hearing. It shouldn't even be a forethought. It shouldn't even be close in mind to anybody. Having a brother that works in corrections, I mean, I certainly know his opinion on it, and I think that it's worth exploring in many ways, because again, just the biggest thing I would talk of, and we look at all these examples, I think the most famous one from Canada was Stephen Truscott, somebody that was wrongfully accused and was on death row, was going to be executed as a result of what he was accused of doing. And it was later found that he was innocent. So I think when you look at situations like that, and there's plenty of examples in the United States where they've executed individuals and it comes out later that, well, they were innocent or that sort of thing. So I think if we were going to move to anything like that, we would have to make sure that it's a system that we have all those checks and balances in place with.
Excellent points. Tom, last word to you.
I'm opposed to capital punishment as well. It's really about valuing human life. even when the accused or the convicted hasn't valued human life. And I think as a society, we should be taking a position where we value human life. Again, even when people like Paul Bernardo did not value human life. And as a deterrent, the research is pretty much opposed to capital punishment as a deterrent. Most of these murders, there isn't much deterrent. Even capital punishment or life in prison may not be a deterrent for a lot of these individuals. And as Joanne and Neil both have said, what about those accused who may have been innocent? And I think the saying is, it's better to let 9 guilty men go free than to hang one innocent man. And Stephen Truscott is an example. Donald Marshall Jr. Is another example. And I think it's just, call it a price to pay in a civil society, possibly, that we incarcerate these people for life. Bernardo's case, I mean, yeah, the eye for an eye argument can certainly be made with such a heinous crime by such an evil person. But I think as a civil society, we have to take a broader, higher look at this and say we value human life more than he does, and we'll pay that cost accordingly. And move on in another direction.
It's an excellent.
Although the eye for an eye is a thing, I'm sure, for a lot of people.
I love the point about what value we place on a human life as a society. Just fantastic stuff from each of you today. Thank you so much for being with us on the Friday Four Roundtable. Tom Galloway, Joanne McNeish, Neil Anstett, your time is appreciated. Enjoy the weekend ahead.
Thanks, you as well, Mike.
This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. It is Friday, Free Phones Friday, where we open the phone lines to hear from you. Begins right after this update from the 570 News Center. This is the Mike Farwell Show.
Take out the papers and the trash, or you don't get no spending cash. If you don't scrub that kitchen floor, you ain't gonna rock and roll no more. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
Just finish cleaning up your room. Let's see that dust fly with that broom. Get all that garbage outside, or you don't go out Friday night. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
It is your 12 o'clock Talkback Hour, this being Friday. It is the Free Phones Friday edition. Give us a call. You heard the numbers a moment ago. Let's hear from you. Have a conversation. I'm all ears. Like, really, I have big ears. Let's go. Jersey Bill, start us off. Good afternoon.
Yes, hello. Let me take you off speaker here. Yeah, I'm seem to be getting over my COVID. Thank goodness that it doesn't hit people the way it did a couple of years ago. And I'm really hoping that I can test negative, because the grandson is going to, with some folks from his school, is going to sing the national anthem before the first Kitchener Titans game on Saturday.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. So, I was really interested to see that team there. They all looked, and it was really nice to hear them, how they identify with Kitchener, how they see themselves as Kitchener people now, which, isn't always the way with these professional athletes have to go from town to town, and they usually maybe don't identify with that town maybe as much as they do with the team itself, because who knows where they're going to be playing the next year. But that was a really nice way that both the president of the team and the team members seem to really coalesce around being a Kitchener asset.
I hope you can make it to the game, because you will not be disappointed. It's a lot of fun going to a Titans game.
I would guess that you're going to be otherwise involved with all the games going on for the Rangers over the weekend, so you probably won't be able to make it, right?
Yeah, typically when the Titans are at the Memorial Auditorium, it's because the Rangers are not. And yeah, I'm going to be on the road in Erie tomorrow night.
Oh, wow. Well, say say hello to the United States for me.
I will do that for sure. I'll take your greetings with me.
Sure thing. Okay. Well, yeah, that's all I have to say. So, hey, go Rangers, go! I was a little disappointed when they didn't win the other night because with everything going on in the world, I was the one tending not to be a homer. I was taking a lot of joy from what they were doing recently and helped me to forget other things happening in the world.
I hope they can spark that joy again tonight, Billy. Get well soon.
Sure thing. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. Good to hear from you today, and enjoy that KW Titans game tomorrow night. Sean, you're on the Talkback Hour. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Yeah, I was commenting on a lot of the communities being very unhappy with the double-digit percentage increases from their policing contracts. In this, they shouldn't be surprised. In the summer, the OPP did sign a new contract where they become the highest-paid police officers in Ontario. And it strikes me that, these communities, they need to take control of their own destiny. They need to form in this case, county-wide police services. A lot of these communities are too small to have their own police services. But, if they got together and had, say, like Essex County, for example, had a county-wide police service, same as Waterloo does. Or you look at Wellington County, where they have the OPP policing the areas outside of Guelph. Like, why not have a Wellington-Guelph police service? Stuff like that seems like a no-brainer, low-hanging fruit, for example. I just don't understand the way we handle policing in this province. A lot of places, they could reduce their costs just by getting together and having a county-wide police service.
All right, Sean, appreciate the call. Find some efficiencies with some sort of amalgamation. How many times have I said something like that before? Andre, you're on the Talkback Hour. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. I'm going to keep in line here because it's a busy Friday. Happy Friday. And I want to say everybody to be safe on the road tonight. That hopefully with the Kitchener Rangers, it's going to be packed. In my case, I'll be making the choice between a case of pop or a case of wine. So I'll call my my other brother, you, to make sure that the game was properly managed. LOL, right, Mike? But I'm just very thankful, Mike, to listen to your show. That's why I'm not going to talk about nothing else. Your 4-round panel was good again, different voice. So that's why I want to hang up and just say that everybody be kind to each other.
All right, Andre, thanks very much for the call. Kindness costs you nothing. So, yes, let's be kind to one another. Grant, free phones Friday over to you. Uh-oh, Grant is in a laughing mood. That makes me nervous.
He makes me laugh, Andre.
Andre makes you laugh?
Because, as you know, when he's had a lot to drink.
Yes, he calls the post-game show Rangers Talk, and sometimes he has had a bottle of wine or two.
And he's talking like, I don't know what he's talking about. And all right. Yeah, this new player, I know.
Hayden Ellis, the new Kitchener Rangers player, yeah.
Yeah, your partner says that he's big, right? And
No, my partner did not. My partner, Paul Fixter, said he used to coach his dad.
Oh, that's right.
Yes, and UC Ahokas, the Rangers head coach, said he's fast and he's skilled and he has a good work ethic.
And do you know much about this individual yourself? Have you?
I do not. I know next to nothing about him.
Okay, well,
we'll find out tonight.
Yeah, and we kind of need somebody big, right? And this.
He's not big though. He's like, I think he's 5'10".
But he's
fast. Yeah.
Right. And same as I can't pronounce this new guy from last week, Prudden.
Pridham, Jack Pridham.
Yeah, and he seems to be pretty fast too, and
he's very fast. Yes,
he's got a good shot. And what are your thoughts of this Joe Rogan talk show host?
Wow. Now, do you see what just happened there? Like, we're talking about the Kitchener Rangers and Jack Pridham, who came to the team about a week ago, and now Hayden Ellis, who has just come to the team. even though he's committed to Northeastern University. 8th round pick for the Kitchener Rangers back in 2023. And Hayden Ellis has now signed with the Rangers. And then Grant goes to, what do I think of Joe Rogan? Full disclosure, because I have my own show to do. I've never listened to Joe, but I loved him on news radio back in the day. He was on a sitcom, and I still have a hard time wrapping my head around that. From sitcom to podcast superstar. I get this podcast newsletter delivered to my inbox every day, and in today's newsletter, it was every top spot was held by the Joe Rogan Experience. So I'll say this much, because I haven't listened to the show, and I'm not knocking it. I just honestly haven't listened, but I wish I had his bank account. It's Free Phones Friday. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio. Little bit of Bob Seger, a rambling, gambling man. Bob Seger for Bob. It's an All Request Friday here on the show. Maybe your name's not Bob, but you just wanted to have the same first name as Mr. Seger out of Detroit Rock City. Anyway, every Friday is an All Request Friday here on the program, and Bob wanted to hear some Seger. Just as we get back to the phones, interesting tidbit just coming in on the newswire. Pat King, one of the most prominent figures of the 2022 Freedom Convoy, has been found guilty of 2 counts of mischief. After all of that, 2 counts of mischief. However, even with that, he could be facing more than 10 years in prison. I doubt he'll get any years in prison, but I'm just sitting over here. He has been found guilty of 2 counts of mischief. Back to the phones on Free Phones Friday. Kyle, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Will Chris Kringle be a guest on your show coming up?
Good question. I hadn't considered it, but I could reach out. I think I have his direct line.
And if he's too busy, will you be dressing up as a Grinch and taking questions?
Shut up.
I'm kidding.
I know. That's why I said like I said. Why would you call me a Grinch? Come on. I'm a good guy.
What did you get for you for Christmas last year?
What did what?
What did you get me for Christmas last year?
The same thing I'm getting you this year. Exactly what you deserve.
Mr. Grinch.
Okay, fine. Fine. Guilty.
All right. I just want to ask if we're having Chris Kringle on the show because, it is coming up, and I got a few items on my list I'd like to ask if I'm going to get this year. So
Okay. Thank
All
you.
right. Thanks, Mike.
All right, Kyle. Take care. We used to bring Santa on the show for the kids, and Kyle wants him on the show now so he can make his requests. The world has changed. I don't think I've really changed with it, to be honest with you. Mr. Anonymous, good afternoon.
He's back.
Is that a warning or a threat?
Take it however you'd like.
How are you, Paul?
I am still vertical, which is a major accomplishment each day.
Good man.
Hey, listen, on the Friday 4 panel, you were talking, how many years has it been the Mike Farwell show now?
7 and a bit. We started June of 17. Yeah.
Yeah, you were talking about the Friday 4 panel. Now, this topic has come up in the past, both with you and a few of your producers over the period of time and whatnot. Your Friday 4 panel is comprised of people who typically have some sort of a political or a business agenda. You're promoting people that have their own agendas in a lot of cases. And I've suggested this in the past, you may recall. How about at some point having ordinary citizens?
First of all, I get it. And I don't think it's unfair. I don't think it's fair necessarily to refer to people like Neil and Tom and Joanne as anything but ordinary citizens, despite what jobs they have currently or may have had. But I get your point, and I'll remind you publicly, this has been brought up before. I have even made attempts to make it happen before, and unfortunately, Mr. Anonymous,
You're afraid of what people might say.
No, some of my other regulars, you don't mind being Paul, but others were very reluctant to actually put their face and name on the show. So I couldn't get 3 people. I could honestly not get 3.
I can't believe that.
It's the truth. I promise you.
You got some good callers that call in and make some good points in that. But
somebody asked yesterday if I could get Andre and Grant on together. We could call it the Incoherent Hour. We tease because we love. We tease because we love.
Yeah, it's like I say. You ask people that are in the public life and whatnot what their views are on things like capital punishment. Now ask the average Joe or average Jane or whatever.
It was the average Joe and Jane that gave me the topic idea because
that raised it.
Okay. I'll tell you what. I'll mark you down as 1. We'll find 2 more and we'll make it happen. Okay. The average Joe's Friday 4.
Hey, we still got to get together for a beer. I got some stories to tell you.
I can't wait. We're going to the Fiddle, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I promise you it's on my list of things. We're going to make it happen as soon as we can.
I know what the range is and everything.
Exactly.
Things get pretty hectic and being on the road and everything else. But one day when you got an evening free,
we're going to do it.
Buy the first pint.
I love. Okay, that's on the rec. Devin, you recorded that, right? Paul is buying the first pint. Perfect. Okay.
Pint of water.
Yeah, get out of here. I'm hanging up on you now. Good to have Mr. Anonymous back. It's the Free Phones Friday edition of the 12 o'clock Talkback Hour. Lisa, Francis, we're coming right to you, and there's a line for you if you want to be a part of the conversation on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio.
Welcome back. Your dreams were your ticket out. Welcome back to that same old place that you laughed about. Well, the names have all changed since you hung around, but those dreams have remained and they've turned around. Who'd have thought they'd lead you? Who'd have thought they'd lead you? Back here where we need you.
Mr. Carter! Mr. Carter! Over here, Mr. Carter! That's all I got. John Sebastian, and welcome back by request for Dean on your All Request Friday here on the show. 'Twas a song that became the theme song for Welcome Back Cotter on your television way back when. Mr. Carter in the back of the class with his hand up said Horseshack. All right, Lisa, to you we go on Free Phones Friday. Good afternoon.
Hey, Mike. So I was listening to your Free Phones Friday group there, and there's a point made about, the way our justice system is set up as opposed to the U.S. But obviously with Bernardo, he was not sentenced to life without the possibility of parole if he can actually come up for parole, and that would have been the whole point behind moving him from a maximum security facility to a medium facility. The idea that eventually they thought he might have a chance of getting out. And I was really surprised that none of the people mentioned David Milgaard, who spent 30 some odd years in jail and then was found to be innocent as well. Unfortunately, he's passed now because he had a very troubled life, but I'm pretty sure he was in jail at least as long as Stephen Truscott, but I could be wrong.
It was close for sure. It's a great example.
Yeah, and so in a case like Paul Bernardo, where there was overwhelming video evidence that he was guilty beyond any reasonable doubt at all, I have a lot of trouble thinking that he deserves to live in any degree of comfort at all. So I would say in a case like his, spending his life in maximum security, I'm not saying anyone deserves to be treated like less than a human being, but I don't think he deserves any of the human comforts that his victims were denied. And I have trouble saying that because that's not how I was brought up. But I grew up and remember all of the, there's a publication ban, but there was a lot of details that came out about what he and Carla Homolka did.
For sure.
It was terrible.
I got to get to news, Lisa.
Okay.
Okay.
Take care.
You too. Thank you. I'm so sorry I had to interrupt, but I was late, really late, last half hour. We'll get right to the news update on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio.
Mustang Sally. Guess you better slow your Mustang down. Oh Lord, what I said now. Mustang Sally now, baby. Oh Lord, guess you better slow your Mustang down.
Oh, don't ever slow the Mustang down. The original pony car, 1964 and a half, when it first debuted. Oh my gosh, that makes this an anniversary year for the pony car, eh? I love the Mustang. And Mike sent in not one, but 2 and 3 requests today. I said, Mike, 1 request per show. Like, come on. He said, you let Kyle have multiple requests. I don't remember letting Kyle have multiple requests. I remember on multiple occasions telling Kyle that his taste in music is awful. But nonetheless, Mike, I'm sorry if you're feeling shortchanged. I have saved your other requests, but I played for you today. Well, Devin played it for you. Who am I kidding? I don't do anything around here. Mustang Sally, Wilson Pickett, for Mike on all Request Fridays here on the show. It's also Free Phones Friday, where you call in and start the conversation. Back to the phones we go. Francis, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. I would like to a word that for our good postal workers, I enjoy them very much. They're great workers. I also had a business of my own, and I knew it was going to go bankrupt if I didn't get out of it. So my advice is to the postal company, let's have deliveries maybe 2 days or 3 days a week, and that way we get all the flyers in one delivery, like I suggest maybe Tuesdays and Fridays, and take the time off, save on vehicles, and they'll have more monies. And that the postal workers, I know you don't want to hear it, but accept the raise, be happy, and start looking for other work, would be my suggestion, because that's what I had to do.
All right. Sounds great, Francis. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Appreciate the call. We hear that often when we're dealing with labor issues, don't we? Take what you can get. Be happy you have a job. Back to work you go. Joe, you are on Free Phones Friday. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. I just got to take a lighthearted poke at how effed up life and some people are. Heaven forbid, if I ever sell my house in KW, do you think I'll get an extra $1 million if I duct tape a banana to the drywall in the basement?
Oh, Joe, honestly, try it. Can you believe it, eh?
What is wrong with stupid rich people?
Well, they have more money than brains. Yeah, they have more money than brains.
More money than brains, man.
Yeah.
Like, what? Do you remember that piece of artwork? 3 big stripes. Like, you paint 3 big stripes on a billboard-sized canvas, and you sell that for $3 million. $1 million per stripe. Maybe my wife is in the wrong business. Do you think?
Maybe you're in the wrong business.
Maybe.
Okay.
Just maybe. Thanks, Mike. Have a great weekend.
You too, Joe. Good to hear from you. If you missed the story here this week, and we talked about it. And listen, if you've listened to this show for more than a minute, you know that I am a passionate supporter of our arts. I love our arts community. I think it brings vibrancy and interesting things to our community. But you've probably heard through this week about the piece of art, the name of Maurizio, I'm forgetting the last name, forgive me. Anyway, he's an Italian artist, renowned Italian artist, and the piece of art in question was called Comedian. In other words, I think the joke is on us, right? Anyway, the piece of art was a banana duct taped to a canvas. That's it. And of course, since it was first created, the banana got mushy, had to be swapped out. The duct tape lost its stickiness, had to be replaced. So it's hard to even call it original anymore. And the person who paid more than $5 million for the artwork is only buying the rights to continually change it. They must, it's like some assembly required or batteries not included. You have to change the banana and the duct tape on your own forevermore. What you have bought with this more than $5 million is the right to continue recreating the work called Comedian. Absolutely wild. I say try it. Put a banana on the wall in the basement and see if you can get another $1 million for the home that you next sell. Mary, you are on the Talkback Hour. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I didn't think I was going to make a comment today, but that art thing's really got me. But it's got a dark and dull day, but you got a lot going on, and how Rangers go. Do you still remember, and it's still there, that a monstrosity on which used to be the courthouse? What would you call it?
Now you got me thinking of the name.
Wasn't it the turd?
Yeah, well, people had lots of different names for it. I called it the intestine, but I like it, Mary. It's provocative. It makes us think.
What are you thinking about?
What do you mean, what am I thinking about?
Yeah, what are you?
What do you mean, what am I? What are you?
I think it's despicable.
Why? What's despicable about it?
Oh, it's just stupid.
The aporia. It's called the aporia. That's what it's called.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get your goat.
Why are you trying to get my goat? Huh? Yeah.
Oh, come on.
All right, Mary, you have a great weekend.
I'm the most generous person and kind that you have ever met.
I've never met you. Got you there.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Maybe that's good.
All right, Mary, you take that delightful laugh into the weekend. Mary got me thinking. She said, go, Rangers, go. I still have a pair of tickets to see the Rangers game tonight. I would be happy to give them to you if, and only if, you can answer my really easy Rangers trivia question. So, if you would like a couple of tickets to tonight's Rangers game versus the Windsor Spitfires, why not give us a call right now and play the game? 519-570-2545. Star 570 and 1-800-570-5715. These are tickets straight from our friend Gord Harris of Harris Law, who sponsors our pregame show. So let me tell you, they're pretty damn good tickets, okay? But I will give them to you. I'm not being selfish. I'm going to give them to you. Really easy Rangers trivia right after this, if you want the tickets to tonight's game. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio. This song today on our All Request Friday goes out to a very good sport by the name of Ernie, who's a fan of the Baltimore Ravens. And my Steelers beat Ernie's Ravens last week. And this song just happens to be a bit of a theme song to celebrate the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I'm still celebrating them today, mostly because Ernie requested the song and was being a good sport after my Steelers beat the Ravens last weekend. My Steelers, unfortunately, did not beat the Cleveland Browns last night. It's embarrassing to lose to the Browns. Anyway, what we really want to do right now is give you tickets to see the Kitchener Rangers play tonight. Really easy Rangers trivia time. And Tim is on the phone with us. Good afternoon, Tim.
Good afternoon, Mike.
You ready to play some really easy Rangers trivia?
Sure, yeah, I sure am.
Okay, attaboy. You want to go to that game tonight, right?
I'd love to.
All right. I got a pair of tickets for you if, and only if, you can answer the following question. Are you ready?
Sure.
Tim, please tell me what team the Kitchener Rangers played on Tuesday night when they lost 3-1.
The London Knights.
Tim, can you repeat your answer, please?
The London Knights.
I had to do that I tried to make it sound bigger than it was, right? Is that really easy Rangers trivia or what?
It is. I didn't like to say that name twice, but
That's true. You deserve the tickets now. One for each time you had to say that awful name. Congratulations, Tim.
oh, that's great. Thank you very much.
You are most welcome. Thanks for calling in and playing along. I'm going to put you on hold. Devin will take down your info, and you'll get the tickets this afternoon, okay?
Thanks very much.
You're very welcome. Put Tim on hold. Let's go over here to Dawn. Dawn, good afternoon.
Hello. I was hoping you'd have trivia from the 80s. It's been a while.
Oh, you want buddy, you want to go back? I'll take you back to the 80s with some trivia.
Sure.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Listen, I make this stuff up off the top of my head, but let me see. I think I got it. Are you sure you want to do 80s trivia?
Sure.
Okay. How many? Yes. Okay. I got it. How many OHL championships did the Kitchener Rangers win in the 1980s?
Well, I think it was 3.
Okay, now, which years are you counting? Let's talk about this. Let's go deeper.
Well, I specifically Brian Bellows, Jeff Larmer, Al McGinnis.
Yeah.
That group, yeah, it was fun to watch that.
Okay, but in the entire decade, what's that?
Oh, yeah. The late 80s, I became a teenager. I didn't go.
So, now what are we going to do here, Don? So, so the 81, 82, 84 with that group you're just talking about.
Yeah.
But don't forget that 89 team. The fantastic Memorial Cup versus the Oshawa Generals. Although, in fairness, the Rangers, because Oshawa won the OHL championship that year, but both teams got to go because Hamilton got knocked out. Hamilton had to give up the hosting of the Memorial Cup because they were so bad. So you were going to the games back in the early 80s, eh?
Oh, yes. It was wonderful to watch Mario Lemieux and Brian Bellows, Steve Larmer, and Al McGinnis' shot was amazing.
It was. Mario Lemieux, that little so-and-so, was here in the Memorial Cup skating against the Kitchener Rangers in that 84 championship.
And I watched it.
I'll tell you what. Don, you sound like a good Rangers fan. And you know what? I'm pretty sure 3 was the answer. So we're just going to... Okay. There was an appearance. There was an appearance in that Memorial Cup for sure. We lost it to Oshawa that year. No, we didn't win. We only won 2 of them so far. But don't worry. We're going to add some more to the trophy showcase, okay? All right. Don, can you hang on the line? We're going to hook you up with a pair of tickets to tonight's game, okay?
Oh, thank you very much.
You are very welcome, sir. Just hold on the line for a second, okay?
Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. There you go. Play some really easy Rangers trivia. Even though I'm making up questions I don't know the answer to. I'm pretty sure it was 4 in the 80s, right? And then 03. Oh, no, see, it couldn't have been. That's right, because 89-90... we went to the final against Oshawa. Oshawa beat us in 7 games in the OHL final, and then we both got to go to the Memorial Cup. And those darned Oshawa Generals beat us again. But we won an OHL championship in 03, in 08, in 81, in 82, in 84. Do I have all these right? Am I getting it? We went to 6 Memorial Cups along the way. Anyway, there you go. And our record in Memorial Cups is 2-4. In case you're keeping track, we're due, Rangers. Let's go. We'll keep it going tonight versus the Windsor Spitfires. Pre-game show brought to you by Gord Harris and the team at Harris Law gets underway at 6:30. And Dawn and Tim have just won Gord Harris's hockey tickets. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio.
Tell me exactly what am I supposed to do now that I have allowed you to beat me? Do you think that we could play another game? Maybe I could win this time.
Maybe we can win this time. Andre wanted to hear The Game by Disturbed, an all-request Friday for tonight's game, Rangers Spitfires. And maybe, unlike Tuesday against London, the Rangers can win tonight. It's a big game. Thanks to Jeffrey for the email to Mike at 570news.com. Rangers OHL championships in the 1980s, 81 and 82. They went to 4 Memorial Cups, 81, 82. 84 they hosted, 89, 90. I'm counting that end of the season in 90 as the 89 season when Hamilton was not able to host. So Oshawa and Kitchener, who played for the OHL championship, both went, even though Oshawa won the championship. So 2 titles claimed in the 80s. And then again, of course, in 2003, 2008 for the 4 OHL championships that the Kitchener Rangers had. But you know what? Don seemed like a nice guy. Thought we'd give him a couple of Gord Harris's tickets to the game tonight. Okay, Free Phones Friday. Wrapping up with Asif. Good afternoon.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
Good.
Just want to say that I want Kitchener Rangers to win so badly.
Me too.
And
every day. Every day.
When the Toronto Raptors won the championship and we all celebrated so hard, I want that to happen again with the Kitchener Rangers and even Toronto Maple Leafs.
Wow, Asif, you had some wild dreams last night, didn't you?
Yeah, I was hoping.
That's a lot of hoping, but I like our Rangers' chances. I really do. I would love to see another parade with the Memorial Cup in Kitchener. That'd be great. Ernie, the good sport, good afternoon.
Mike, did that pump you up a little bit listening to that?
No, I'm still bummed out from last night, dude.
Yeah, we both lost to Cleveland. How does that even happen?
So they have 3 wins, and 2 of them are against Baltimore and Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. I know. Don't get me wrong. I watched last night, and I was thrilled, but I'm sure as anybody else would be on the other side. But I was hoping that would pump you up. I was just listening to it, too, and I'm like, man, I used to love this song, and then when I found out what it was associated with, I didn't listen to it anymore.
Of course, it ruined the whole song for you.
Yeah, it's like one of those movies where you don't like the actor, you find something he did or something like that. But I'm like, you know what? Charles Suggs would always say, when they play that, it pumps us up just as much. We love that song. I'm like, I'm going to go with that theory now. I'm going to crank it after.
Attaboy. Good job.
I'm done talking to you. Go Rangers, go Leafs, Mike. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, Ernie. You too. Great note to end on. Go Rangers. So here's what we've got for you. We've got the Rangers at home tonight to the Windsor Spitfires. Pregame 6:30 with me and Paul Fixter. And then tomorrow night in Erie, Rangers and Otters. Again, the Harris Law pregame show starts at 6:30, and Paul Fixter and I will be in PA. Fixie texted me last night watching the Steelers-Browns game, which was in a snowstorm. He said, let's hope we don't see much of that south of Lake Erie when we go around the water on the trip down there. I think we'll be okay. We've got Moose, our bus driver, at the wheel. So you can keep up with the Rangers all weekend right here on 570 News Radio. We will cheer for the Toronto Maple Leafs, because that's what we do. We will cheer for the Wilfrid Laurier University Golden Hawks, who are playing for the National Football Championship in the Vanier Cup. And we will cheer for the KW Titans as they tip off a brand new season tomorrow night at the Kitchener Memorial Auditorium. What more do you want in your weekend? Oh, how about 2 days off? You can have that too. All News Afternoons starts at 3. Before we get there, Now You Know with Rob Snow from 1 until 3. Devin Robertson, our guy on the other side of the glass. My name is Mike Farwell. Bye for now.